Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising books, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, as well as other fun, informative global cruise personalities. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests. If you hear about a cruise that interests you, book it at www.thejoyofacation.com or enter to win a free cruise for two. Again, www.thejoyofacation.com. We really appreciate your feedback, so leave us a text. Paul can't reply, but he may read your text on the air.
Hello, passionate cruisers. This is Paul. This week on the Joy of Cruising podcast, I'm delighted to welcome Kathy Liu of Explora Journeys. Let me preface my conversation with Kathy by pointing out that Explora Journeys was not even on my radar a few months ago. Then a series of events converged in a short amount of time. In November, the Cruise Critic Awards came out, and Explora Journeys was announced as respectively Best Cruise Line, Best Dining, and Best for Families in the luxury category. Mind you, at the time of that announcement, a luxury cruise was on my bucket list. Perhaps Regent Seven Seas, Crystal, Seabourn, Windstar. Explora Journeys was not even in my thinking. Then I hosted Colleen McDaniel, editor-in-chief of Cruise Critic, and happened to ask her to reflect on cruising luxury cruise lines. Part of her response related to Explora Journeys, and I recall responding, "Wow, I've got some research to do." That research led me to Kathy Liu. Kathy Liu is Explora Journeys Business Relationship Lead, USA Southeast. Having spent 14 years at Crystal Cruises, Kathy flourished in the brand's culture of excellence, in which respect for others was paramount and exceeding expectations was inherent within the team. From her beginnings as an administrative assistant through promotions into a myriad of roles in strategic partnerships, international sales and marketing, and ultimately regional sales manager for the Southeast, Kathy has formed unique global perspectives and valuable insights into all aspects of luxury tourism today. A playful and curious lover of travel who began cruising from a young age, Kathy has spent much of her life exploring the world. Her favorite destinations include Greece, Hungary, and Vietnam, and her future travels wish list includes iconic spots like South Africa, New Zealand, and especially Iceland. A broken ankle occurring hours after stepping onto the land of fire and ice cut her holiday short in 2021. Whether at home in Atlanta, in a fine restaurant, at a taco truck, or aboard a luxury ship, Kathy enjoys the foodie life and relishes opportunities to entertain. She loves contemporary art and Scotch whiskey that is old enough to order its own drink. She's a friend to all canines, and she loves people, particularly her supportive family in Los Angeles. Kathy graduated from California State University in Geographical Information Systems with a minor in business entrepreneurship. When she's not enjoying the southern climes of the Peach State, you can find her cultivating an ocean state of mind with her family as they cherish special moments together at sea. Welcome, Kathy, to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm excited to be here, and I appreciate you, welcoming me onto your podcast. This is very exciting.
Well, it's good to virtually meet you. Before we discuss Explora Journeys and the path that led you there, tell our listeners about yourself, where you're from, your background, whatever you would like to share.
Well, thanks. I grew up in Los Angeles. This is where the accent comes from. I now reside in Atlanta, and I cover the Southeast of the United States, Florida, not Florida, but above Florida and all the way up to Virginia and over. So yeah, I've been in this industry for quite a while now. And, my family, I think I credit this to my family. We travel as kids. And so this kind of prompted me, without knowing this, my path, it just kind of led me to it. And it's very serendipitous, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So tell us the story of the origin of Explora Journeys
Oh, yeah.
and then give us the glorious details of sailing them. And I know they're glorious because I don't know if there is a cruise line I have researched more in a condensed period of time in anticipation of my own journey.
It's really exciting, isn't it? When you start to dive into what we are able to offer, it's just, in my opinion, I feel like it's a little bit too good to be true. And then once you're on board, I think you're going to be blown away as well. So, yeah, let's go back. We can go back like 300 plus years. The family, this is a privately owned company by one family, and they started off as fishermen back then, and kind of stayed in the seafaring way. And I think you might all recognize the cargo containers out there, whether they're on railroad tracks or cargoes yards or on ships. It's Mediterranean Shipping Company. That's MSC. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what's great is that, they are the world's largest shipping company out there. And with that also means deep pockets, and that also means security for this brand. Yes, they have a contemporary brand called MSC Cruises, but that's a completely different subset. We are just sister companies. There's no real relation other than the owners that own both of us. So when people ask, who are you owned by? I always respond, Mediterranean Shipping Company Group.
Mm-hmm.
And I emphasize that because whether you like MSC Cruises or not, again, I want to preface that it is a different company than ours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and leading into it, the brand is actually really, really interesting. They recognize that there's this untouched niche that needed to be focused on. I mean, you can go from one line to the next, and there's some sort of, I call it traditional cruising. It's very similar in a way, and it's the onboard experience that's a little bit different that you get. Whereas if you were to sail on Explora Journeys, it's a unique experience. And I don't want to say it's so different from cruising, but it's just unique enough that you're like, whoa, this is really cool. So it does open up the eyes and experiences to those that are not normally an ocean traveler. But then those that do sail the waters all the time, this is again, a different experience. So it's worth giving it a shot, especially now with our promotions and our fares being so low. Give us a shot and try it out for yourselves. I know I can continue to talk about how great we are, but and will get, kind of oversaturated in that sense. But I do encourage you, just try us out.
Now, I have
Mhm.
cruised a lot, but I have never cruised on what I would call a luxury cruise line. And I'm setting aside river cruising because I have done a ultra luxury cruise, river cruise to the southern France that ended in with 3 days in
Mhm.
Paris. So that's pretty luxury. But I've never sailed on a traditional luxury cruise line. Uh, Clearly, Explorer is different than regular cruising, but contrast Explorer Journeys with other luxury
Okay,
cruise
yeah. I
lines.
mean, I can leverage my background. I was with another luxury line for nearly 14 years, right? So, um, and I've sailed on others as well, other brands. And again, if you enjoy the traditional cruise experience, where they have the Broadway style shows, where there is someone on the PA systems telling you what to do, where to go, what to watch, when to eat. Great, that's your style. But if you want something a little bit more laid back, a little bit, you know what? I don't want to gaslight you, Paul, but it's very similar to the pace. The pace is very similar to river cruising. It's slower. You get to do what you want when you want it. You have the ship like a resort to yourself. And again, you can go and venture off and look at our art our art gallery, or go to our one of 4 pools to go and experience, and do various things, go shopping, things like that. And it's like a resort on water, a high-end luxury resort on water. And it's just really, really comfortable. And again, you become much more relaxed once you're on board with us.
Now, you mentioned art, and this question is specific to my own cruise coming up. Is the art available for sale?
It is not.
Okay,
It is
okay.
not. What we have, and you have to forgive me, I forget which ship you're going to be on, but I'll talk about Explora One, for instance.
Yeah,
Currently,
I'll be on Explorer One.
oh, fantastic. So I believe if by the time you're on board, we should still have our current art exhibit on, and it's being lent to us by a family friend of the companies, of the owners. But what's incredible is that this past summer, I was in Bilbao, Spain, and went to the Guggenheim, and went up to the pop art area, and I'm like, oh cool, there's a Liechtenstein. Oh cool, there's like 2 or 3 Warhols. But what's incredible, Paul, is that we have 12 Warhols on our ship, original prints. There were 8 Liechtensteins, original prints. At our art gallery, and those are on lend, and those are original prints. And so it's like I could appreciate that, and I love pop art, and the fact that we have these originals right in front of you where you can almost touch it, without having to fight for elbow space to experience it is incredible.
Wow, Warhols. Disregard my earlier question about the is the artwork on sale? So I'm on Explorer One. I know Explorer Two is out recently. Came out. Talk about the future plans of Explorer Journey. I know there's a well defined timeline. Say something about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, Explora One actually came out August of 2023. A year and a month later, September 16th, this past year in 24, Explorer 2 came out. So we have 2 ships under 2, right? Incredible. In 2026, around August, I believe, summer of 26, Explorer 3 comes out. And so we're going to continue this pace. By 2028, we will have 6 vessels in the water. What's incredible is that Explorer 1 and 2, they're sister ships. They're identical in size, practically identical interior-wise, and all that jazz. 3 and 4 will be slightly larger, but it will only carry 2 more guests. We're adding 1 more suite to that on a larger space. And 3 and 4 will be LNG powered. That's liquefied natural gas. So it's going to be a cleaner burning fuel that will afford us the opportunities to visit really cool spots. Because I don't know if you're aware, places like the Baltic, they are starting to restrict ships from coming in unless you have almost a zero emission style vessel. And yeah.
Wow, I just learned something.
It's incredible,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, soon enough, a lot of these older traditional styled ships, they're not going to be allowed to visit these ports where, we're kind of on the ball with technology and sustainability, if you will. So, and let's move forward. How about 5 and 6? Those are supposed to be hydro-powered, so really, really clean, almost zero emission, all that jazz. So we're going to be able to call to these ports of calls when a lot of other companies, unless they step up with their technology, to be able to keep up with it.
We'll be right back.
The Joy of Cruising podcast guests receive a gift sponsored by GigSky of a 3 gigabyte cruise plus land data package valued at $60. Relying on ship Wi-Fi is slow, unsecure, and sometimes not available. And at foreign ports, travelers don't want to pay their carriers high fees. GigSky provides a solution that will save them a significant amount of money. To get your own data package usable on the ship or in ports, here is my link to GigSky. https://gigSky.pxf.io/NLOXOR. This can be found in the show notes below. For a 10% discount, use the code Joy of Cruising.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears. We're going to come back to specifically talk about Explora Journeys, but let's shift gears right now. I always try to provide listeners, Joy of Cruising podcast guests, cruising background. So when and what ship was your very first cruise?
Oh my gosh, I was little. Little. Okay, so I think it was Royal Caribbean Jubilee, if that was one of them. I can't remember. It was Royal, but I was tiny. Um, and so my family and that was our first cruise. And then fast forward a couple years later, we've done a couple other trips, but I remember my brother and we were either in Europe or in Asia, and we did a motor coach tour. And oh my God, we just could not get out of it fast enough. And when my parents said, "Oh, we're going to go back on another cruise," like years later, we're like, "Yes, thank you." So even as a kid, I've always enjoyed cruising. I just find it so easy. And, when I sell these ocean experiences, I always say it as this is more like an appetizer. There are ports, there are countries you want to visit, but you don't know what to do, where to go. And you go to these various ports. If you love a destination, you can always go back and do an immersive experience. And then if you don't like it, you can always go back, quote unquote, home, right? You can go back to the ship and just enjoy it and be comfortable in your own space. So yeah, it's one of those things that we've always enjoyed. And my family and I were excited to be on a family holiday soon. So, that's coming up, something to look forward to. Yeah.
Still cruising together.
Correct. Still cruising after all these years. And this is going to be exciting. I'll have my nephew on for the first time as well. He just turned 1 a couple months ago. So
oh wow,
this is going to
that's
be great. Yeah.
So now, before you join Explora, give us a few highlights of some of your cruising. Even you just did sort of with your family, but as you got older and then you started cruising by yourself or not with your family, give us some highlights of your cruising life.
Yeah, I've done a lot myself, whether it's for work or with friends. It's just really fun. I have been, and this is either solo or with friends or with family, we've been all over the map. The European cruises are always really great. Caribbeans are great for girls' trips too. Asia was a huge highlight for me. I was not expecting Asia to be a great trip, and that was phenomenal. At one point, I did experience New Year's in Rio, in Brazil, and that was incredible as well. So, and speaking of New Year's, even though we just crossed the threshold into a new year, it was really incredible to see how Brazilians celebrate New Year's from the other side. They're always on Ipanema and they're celebrating. It's all white. They're all dressed in white and they're seeing the fireworks on one side where the ships are on the other side of the fireworks. And it's just an incredible view. So, you get to hit these ports and see these places from a different perspective, a different angle. And it's just really unique.
For my listeners and for you, I've done maybe 155 podcasts, and you're about the fourth or fifth person to mention New Year's Eve in Rio. So
Yeah.
So that's on my bucket list just because it comes
Yes.
up. It has come up several times.
Yeah, you definitely should. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. Um, and it's just so exciting. I mean, this is what it is, right? Traveling opens your world and your experiences to so many things that you don't get to see in your day to day or even in your own country. So, to see how another human celebrates these global celebrations, these global events and such. It's just really it's really cool.
Now, give us some highlights of your Explora Journeys cruises.
Ooh, oh my gosh. Um, it is great. I can't emphasize that enough, even though I know I've said that many times already. For me, I am not a Broadway style show person. Oftentimes, when I am on any ship, after dinner, you'll find me kind of in the lobby, hanging out by a lounge or in a bar, just kind of mingling with people. I like conversations. And that is what Explore Journeys is promoting. Sure, we have different shows, we have different performances, things like that, in varying kinds, but you'll likely find me out there talking to people, getting to know people, because it's just, again, back to getting experiences, learning about things. So that's just me. I like to just not bog my schedule down with a lot of things. I mean, even if we are on a journey together and it's I don't know, a 9 night experience, I'm not going to leave the ship all 9 days or all 8 days, however many days there are. I try to carve out some downtime even during the day. And what's really great is that at our spas, I mean, there are specials that happen, and I like to take advantage of the spa when it's pseudo empty, if you will, um, and just kind of decompress. Because listen, we are on schedules every single day, every week, and it's nice not to have to be somewhere, do something unless you want to. And that's a rarity nowadays. So that's something I like to do for myself when I'm on board.
Now, did you say, or am I hoping you said this? Did you say there are specials in the spa?
Yeah. There are specials in the spa, so you just never know what they're going to offer, and it's always wise when you come on board to check and see what they have. Sometimes, on port days, we might offer a complimentary 30-minute massage with service or a facial with service. So it's worth checking into. When you have a port that you're just like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that one. I want to spend the day on board. I mean, why not get your value out of it, right? So we do have that available too. So you just got to ask and see what they have.
Well, that's good to hear because one cruise ship tradition I have. Virtually every cruise I've taken, I've gotten a massage. So, and always after the massage, I find myself saying, "That's the best massage I ever had." So, I think in statistics they call that recency bias. So, with all of those cruises that you've done, some of them with other luxury lines, some of them with Explorer, you've been to all kind of exotic destinations. Do you even have a bucket list?
Oh, I do. I do. I mean, there are, one, for example, is Africa. It doesn't matter if it's north, south, east, or west. I have only seen Africa from
Mm-hmm.
Gibraltar. I
Uh-huh.
have
Uh-huh.
not touched ground in Africa yet. So that's still a bucket list of mine. Um, Antarctica is another one of mine. I recently was able to accomplish or check one off, and that's Iceland. I've had many attempts from there, even broke my ankle there one time within 4 hours of landing. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So that doesn't really count.
Wow.
I had to fly back home. So yeah, thankfully, and I'm very grateful, but and that Explore Journeys was able to afford me that opportunity to go and experience Iceland, because when we launched Explore One, we were in and out of Reykjavik just a few times before the ship transitioned over to the US. So that was an incredible experience. It was from Reykjavik to Iceland to Greenland, Greenland to Canada, and then we ended up in New York. And that was a 16 night. We were able to see Northern Lights. We were able to see icebergs, glaciers. It really was an incredible experience. So that was, as far as all of my Explore Journeys trips thus far, that was a definite highlight.
And so I've had, you know, a luxury cruise on my bucket list. And I recently had on my podcast Colleen McDaniel, editor in chief of Cruise Critic. And, I didn't even ask an Explorer Journeys question. I just asked, a question about luxury cruising, in line with my hope someday to take a luxury cruise. And, she responded. But then she started talking about Explora Journeys, and Kathy, before she finished, I had my iPhone in my hand, and I was like, going to the website, and so when I ended that call with Colleen by saying, I've got some research to do. and my research led to you. But anyway, so let's go full circle. Cruise Critic gave me this idea, so I have been poring over the Cruise Critic Explora Journeys site, or Explora Journeys forum. So I got a few questions from some of the members on that forum. If you can answer them, we'd appreciate it. If you can't, I understand.
Okay, I'll do my best.
So here's one. One of the members said, having sailed twice on Explorer and never receiving a feedback form or survey, how are they getting feedback from their guests?
We actually have a feedback or a survey linked onto our television. So when you're on board, especially towards the end of your journey, if you were to click through one of those app options, you'll be able to see an area to enter your feedback, suggestions, your comments, and such like that. Now, granted, I understand that you're now off the ship and you're wondering how to do that. You can always email it in. Email us or have your advisor find out, send it to your advisor, your travel advisor, and they can share that with us. We love feedback, good, bad, and ugly, because how are we supposed to be the best if we don't know, right, what to fix? So with my partners that have been on board, I always ask them to send it to me, and then I shoot it up to Geneva, which is where our headquarters are based, so that they can review it and address things that need to be addressed. So yeah, surveys are on the television screens, and you can always email it in as well.
Okay, thank you. Another question: what is Explora Journeys' staff turnover rate, and is staff retention a priority? Losing high-profile talent like Heike Bertos is very visible.
Oh, yes, I know. Heike is phenomenal. And you know what? If I'm going to be honest with you, I am not surprised that she would be poached and selected. I mean, hey, I might be speaking out of school. We practically did the same thing to her to bring her over to us, and somebody else snatched her, right? So Heike is an exception. She is exceptional, but she is an exception. Our host turnover is fairly low, all things considered. We are adding more and more people. And I am proud to say that the team, we had half of our hosts on Explorer 1 moved to Explorer 2 when we opened Explorer 2 to train up, new staff or new hosts, and also, make sure and open the ship, if you will. And it was smooth. It was very smooth. I was just on board a couple weeks ago, and I was just like, this is incredible. And a lot of repeat guests said, oh my gosh, I went back on board, and there are people that I recognize, and it's so great. And that's the truth. And
Mm-hmm.
You know how we retain people? We promote them. There are a lot of our hosts that have been promoted. They could be from the guest services side, and they were sitting behind a desk out by the lobby, and now they are managers, so there are opportunities to climb, and that just affords our team or family, uh, you know, that option, that opportunity. It's great. So, yeah.
Let's see the next one. Now, this is not really your bailiwick, and it's probably a corporate decision, but I'll ask it anyway, and you let me know if you can answer it. Why doesn't Explorer allow you to use onboard credit to book shore excursions prior to boarding?
Well, I think you said it right there. On board credit. You have to, yeah, our journey experience credits are only activated once you're on board and on board checked in and all that jazz. And that's just how it is for, this, it's just a corporate policy, in order to theoretically confirm your space on a destination experience. We want to make sure that, you pay in full so that you're not just booking and canceling when you're on board. And that just then plays with, destination experience inventory and minimums that we have to reach in order to kick off the experience shoreside. So yeah, onboard experience credits are specifically for onboard use, or onboard booking, that is.
Okay. Another guest or another member asks about a frequent cruiser or repeat guest program. He or she says it's been promised for months, and repeat guests are wondering why it takes so long to come up with ideas to incentivize repeat bookings.
Well, we are coming out with a program, and I know you're probably rolling your eyes saying, "Oh, here we go again." We are. Our main priority at the start of inception, all the way through till now, is to get these ships off the ground, and in the water. And now that we've accomplished that, now we have a tiny bit of a grace period, if you will, right? Because we started the first ship in 2023, second ship in 2024, third will be in 26. I have a feeling that it's going to come out this year. We have a small program that's starting up already. So if you were to come back and book again and make a referral, there is a program, kind of a pseudo program in play, with restrictions, of course. But if you kind of stay with us a little bit longer, we'll have something out there for you. It's just, we're just in the works. There's a lot of, it's a brand new company. We're not just cloning an existing brand. We're starting from scratch. And so, yeah, just give us a little bit of time. We'll have something available for you.
Okay, two more, Kathy.
Okay.
This person says the prices for the spa are exceptionally high when compared to other luxury cruise lines. So that's kind of a statement rather than a question. Can you speak to that?
Well, I like to challenge that. I don't think that it is high. I think it is reasonably priced compared to other luxury lines. As I said, I've been there before and I've done it as well. Something to note, we do not have a third party vendor coming in to operate our spa services. This is all operated in-house with our own spa therapists. And they are fantastic. I don't think I've ever had a better massage or facial in shoreside, land, hotel, or even on another cruise line than what I have had on Explora Journeys. So, with all due respect, I beg to differ.
Okay. And the last question from my cruise critic friends is Explore Journeys planning to bring back the guest chef concept for the anthology restaurant?
That's a great question. On my last journey, this is a couple weeks ago in December, I did anthology without the guest chef. It is done by Chef Frank Geringer, and it was phenomenal. I thought it was just great. As of today, I am unaware of any guest chef concept in anthology, but we do have our chef invite series, and all of that is available on our website. So if you just punch in chef invite series, you'll see our first guest chef, Chef Marks, and he's going to do a whole thing. So that's something that we're trying to implement. That's a new program, and that might be really, really cool too.
Great, great. Well, Kathy, thank you for so graciously fielding those questions, very specific questions. And I know that, that's not what I kind of mentioned we would talk about, but I'm glad that you were able to field all of them. And, hopefully my friends at Cruise Critic will listen to this full podcast and hear you address them. Thank you so much. I know you're very busy. Before we let you go, you know what? I do have one last personal kind of question. How do you spend your me time?
Oh, oh gosh. I have
Or
very little me time.
do you have any me time?
If I haven't lost track of the number of states I cover, I believe I cover 9 or 10 states. So I have very little me time. But when I am home, I do like to cook. I do like to organize. I mean, I just moved into a new house. I'm trying to get the place personalized to me. So a lot of my me time currently is additional work at home. Um, but otherwise, a good series on streaming platform, hanging out with my friends. My friends and I are all foodies. We like to do, a supper club or just go and have, dinner outside in Atlanta. Those are some things. I do need to get back home, see my family, my nephew. He's, 1, and I need him to know that, he has an aunt. So yeah, that's what I like to do. I mean, as of today. So ask me again in a year, and then
As I started to say, before we let you go, we always ask at the end of our conversations a couple of fun cruise questions, and executives, cruise line executives like to have fun too. So what's your favorite cruise drink and cruise food?
okay, my drink, and this is one I discovered while on board, and it is called a South Side. I am not a gin person, but the South Side is delicious, and it's and I like it in a specific way. Egg whites, dry shake in a coupe glass. If it's served in a spritz, as a spritz, or in another glass, it's not right in my opinion. But it's a delicious drink. And my favorite food, as of recent, on board in Marble and Co., which is one of our restaurants, our complimentary restaurants, the signature appetizer. It's fingerling potatoes with a cannelle of caviar and a little gold leaf on top. It is beautifully plated, and everyone has their style. It's kind of like eating an ice cream, right? Do you bite right into it? Do you scoop it? How do you do it? For me, with this appetizer, I like to mix it all up so that every bite is you have a little bit of creaminess and you have the pop of the caviar. So that's how I like to handle it. Mm.
Wow, as you were describing that, I was saying to myself, "Oh my goodness, I love caviar." Sounds like I've been on lots of luxury events. No, not true. I can actually remember. This is a little side. I actually remember in traditional cruising, like way back. I started cruising in 1988. Way back, they used to
Mm.
have a midnight buffet, and they actually served caviar on mainstream cruise lines. And I'm sure it wasn't the caviar that you would find on a luxury cruise line, but yeah, things were quite elegant back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, second question.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be all of these, just one of these. What's your most wonderful or memorable or funniest or even most embarrassing cruise or port experience?
Well, I have two stories, quick stories. Which one do you want first? Memorable or embarrassing?
Give me memorable first.
Memorable. Okay. So being in this industry, being in this position that I'm in, what's really, really fantastic is that I'm able to, you know, open up opportunities for my family. I mean, I grew up in a fairly large family. My mom is one of eight kids, right? Seven kids, forgive me. So, Thanksgiving is always really, really large for us. There's at least 50 of us. And so, and as time goes on, a lot of us are adults now and we kind of do our own thing. But being able to afford these opportunities for not just my immediate family, but my extended family to all be together in one space and commiserate is great. And it's very warming for me. And I think that's another reason why I continue to be in this industry even after so many years.
Mm-hmm.
Good, bad, and ugly, right? If we go back,
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago, I mean, it was almost like, why are you still in this cruise industry? Because, COVID was such a brutal experience. But I always have this one image in my head of when I saw my mom and her sisters all huddled around a table to talk and kind of break bread and drink tea and all that stuff. It just kind of seared in my brain, and so I'm like, this is why I do it. So that's one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my most embarrassing is also a personal rule of mine for any cruiser, any traveler that's going on a ocean experience, is to never press the time of when you need to be back on board.
Uh-oh.
I haven't missed the ship yet, thankfully, knock on wood, but I have been the last person on board before, and it is not a fun experience. Granted, I was an employee at the time, and not a crew, but shoreside and on board.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they said like, no, no, don't worry, it's okay. I was so embarrassed. I said to myself from here on out, if they're saying come back on board by this time, I always, always pad it. I always make sure because there are times you just never know. Different countries have different traffic patterns. And there are certain roads that are only a one street and always just be careful. It's my,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well, probably the only thing worse than being the last person on board is not making the ship.
Exactly, exactly. And I've seen that happen myself before. And, not myself, but I've seen it happen and it's not pretty. And, I feel a little helpless too when I see, guests being left. And then again, this is not on my ships. I've seen it happen with other ships. And I feel so helpless and I wish I could do something, but, there's really not. And yeah, just definitely please pay attention to the signs when you are disembarking, and also on embarkation day. You don't want to be the last person to be on board as well. So, always pad that. Another personal rule of mine: if embarkation is Saturday, I try to be at that port or at that city on Friday. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Those days of flying in on the day of that's over.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you just never know. Could be engine issues on the plane or whatever the case may be, and you just don't want to miss your trip because you don't want to spend one extra night there. Unless you have to, that's one thing. But yeah, it's if I can afford it, I definitely get in the day before.
I consider myself a very experienced cruiser, and I find myself, joining into a lot of cruise groups and forums or online, and I say to newer or new cruisers all the time, one thing about taking cruise line excursions is that they come with an implied promise to never leave you. If you take a non-cruise line excursion and they get in a traffic jam or something, you're on your own. Okay. Well, I recently did a podcast about a family that took a cruise line excursion and they still got left. It
Oh,
made
interesting.
international news. It was a family of 9.
It is very unlikely with a luxury line that it will happen, right? Yeah, that's also another difference. Yeah.
Oh yeah. This was this was more mainstream cruise line. So, okay, the third question, I call this an oddball question, only in that it has nothing to do necessarily with cruising. It's just a way for your friends to get to know you just a little bit better. So first of all, let me just say, welcome to Kathy's friends who are listening. I hope you enjoyed what you heard and will come back to the Joy Cruising Podcast to listen to more episodes. Kathy, share one thing that my listeners and your friends don't know about Kathy.
Okay, this is very interesting. I might lean in towards what you just said about booking your short-side experiences through the company versus outside. One year I was in Mykonos and I decided to rent an ATV, got in an accident,
Ooh.
and was almost thrown in jail in Athens,
Oh
or
my
I'm sorry, in Greece.
oh my goodness.
Um, and because it was, I believe it was a Friday, um, there's no bail, there's nothing like that, and I would have to have sat in jail until Monday and then get out and catch the ship. It was a fraudulent case on their end because the ATV was a junk. But basically they extorted me out of, 300 euros. But at that time I'm like, no, take my money. I'm going back on board. I want this out of my hair, so that's what I did. So yeah, I was almost in jail in Mykonos.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you, Kathy, for coming on the Joy of Cruising podcast. All the best to you and to Explora Journeys. And as I like to say, we will see you on the ocean.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. Thanks, Paul. And thank you everyone for tuning in.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again for $18.99 can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.